And we're live. So we just chat a little bit before, waiting for people to join. I don't keep my starting soon scene very long.
It's like, no, we're live. Panic. So yeah, no. How are you anyway today, Frank?
I'm well. How about you?
Busy. I drove home this morning. The past week I was doing sort of a bit of remote working. The family had a little holiday planned while I was away, doing TwitchCon.
So is it Inception then? Because it was remote from the remote?
Yes, there we go. That's the one. So I was meant to be at TwitchCon last week, and the majority of last week, and probably Ignite as well before that. But of course, those were cancelled, and we weren't doing in-person things until probably middle of next year, or even further into the future. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. So I'm still very what's the proper Monday are always hard for me. I shouldn't have picked that day to stream. I'm rusty in English since I don't talk much in English during the weekend. I'm still not up to date with my Ignite kind of catch up. I need to watch tons of video. I was really involved in monitoring the chat and everything during the event, so I kind of did my you could go at my Ignite and you do your backpack and you tag bunch of videos. So I have a nice playlist. Still have a lot of work to do on that side. But what was your few favorite topics or moment of the Ignite?
I'm catching up as well.
Oh, you're catching up?
Yeah, because because of the work coming in, it's a case of I just haven't sort of sat still, even though I was doing some remote work and working remotely, remoting the remote to remote. It was a case of no, I haven't been able to sit still and sort of catch up on those videos. I don't even know, is there a 1.5 setting for video, so we can just play them really quickly like you can podcasts?
Well, what you could do is you go at my Ignite, and then you could download them.
Perfect.
So
that's
then
what I'll be doing.
You watch it offline. That's what I do, so I could skip a little bit easier, because sometimes I know that part, I don't know, I was watching Abel was presenting how to deploy from Visual Studio, so the part where we load in Visual Studio, I know that part, but it's the publish that I was interested, because now you could right click publish and do the right thing, create a CI/CD from the right click, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I want to see that, but I skipped a little bit part of it. So that's one video. I think it's Are We There Yet, the title of the video, and it was Scott and Simon. Pretty cool video, and with Abel, of course. Abel, should say it in English. So yeah, I there's a few video like that, so you could download them. If watching it faster is your thing, then I'm sure in your favorite media player you could do that, right? Play it faster. I cannot do that very well.
It's if you're listening to things in the background, it's fine. If you're trying to watch it, maybe not.
Yeah. English for me, if I'm not focused on it, turn very easily into noise. Just So yeah, I need to focus. Otherwise, it's just I'm starting.
I was going to say the same for me, really. It just turns into noise.
Just turns into noise, and then Okay, let's do a proper start of that show. I received a notification, so everybody is aware now that we are live. Oh, I didn't look into Microsoft Learn TV, so I'm assuming we're good there too. Yes, it turned into noise, and then cool.
Excellent. So we're live everywhere.
We're live everywhere. So Bonjour, hi, welcome to the stream. Welcome to All on Azure episode. I forgot which episode we are today. We are episode, I think, 42. That's crazy. We just started a few weeks ago, and now like episode 42. That's crazy. I'm Frank Boucher. I'm a Microsoft Cloud Advocate, and today with me I have a very special guest because it's a Microsoft Azure MVP. MVP is for Most Valuable Professional. And this guy is a magician with VMs and he will share his secret with us today. So very happy to have Andy Morell with us, right? Morell, I'm pronouncing your family name correct?
Yep. You are, yeah. Well done. One of the first people that has ever done that. First off.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. So based somewhere in UK, I forgot to ask you exactly where.
If anyone out there knows the UK fairly well, it's just north of Bristol, on the Welsh border.
Okay.
So it's a nice little place.
Nice. So welcome aboard. Welcome to the stream. I'm happy to have you today.
Excellent.
And even more because you just jump in last second. Had a little hiccup with the schedule and everything, but you say, yep, I'm going in, so pretty happy about that. That's pretty cool. Thank you a lot for that. I'm sure the viewers will also very appreciate what you have to share with us today, so pretty cool. We'll be talking VMs, right?
We're talking mainly VMs. It's all around the systems that we created as part of the live coders. And I will get onto that in a few minutes, but we will. It's mainly VMs, a little bit of networking here and there, and then the software that we added on later on. So I'll talk about that as well.
So I mentioned your Microsoft MVP. What's your specialty? Because when you are an MVP, you need to have a specialty. I was an MVP before. My specialty was Azure, but your specialty is not Azure, even if you use Azure, right?
No, mine is developer technologies, okay. Which basically means everything. I thought it
was my category, like Azure. That was like everything.
No, it's basically we are. I consider the sort of developer technologies folks as the teachers, the people that sort of it's this group of people that just do everything, all rounders, but promote development, promotes the development community, and sort of push that forward. So, for example, it's doing things with open source software, doing things with I've been broadcasting on Twitch for 4 years now. So it's one of those things where that's sort of led, and that's where I think the developer technologies group comes in.
4 years you've been doing that?
Yeah.
Always in code or game at the beginning? I'm assuming game.
No. I started the coding was my first coding. Hang on, my first gaming stream was October 2016. Okay. So yes, that is 4 years. My first development stream was February 2017. So it was about 4 to 5 months of gaming before moving straight over to development.
Oh, that's nice. And what may the audience here is I think a lot of people on Twitch are younger, young professional, maybe still student and stuff like that. So what brought you to development? Or IT or computer science, depending on that, what we do.
Right. So why I made that switch? I play games. I have done for years. I'm sort of one of those. I'm sort of mid to late 30s, and I'm very much the generation that sort of started with computer games. The Super Nintendo. I even had a Spectrum at one point. And then you sort of move up, and then you get to the next generation of PlayStation, and when Xbox came out, and then the last 25 years or how many other years since then. And that's where I've always been a gamer, but not very good at it. So when I was doing that game streaming, it was just to no one as a hobby, as a replacement for going out, because it meant I could do something in the evenings. Because in August 2016, my son was born, and I sort of look after him a lot, and I felt guilty going out and just leaving my wife and family at home, and it was a case of, I'll be at home, do that, and sort of have a bit of fun there. And then, because I was basically bad at gaming,
just like me.
I was. There was like no viewers, no anything like. It was like I went, and at the start of 2017, one of the major bots was disappearing from Twitch, called Revlo, and I went, right, I want to create my own. So I looked up the Twitch API. I looked up the main .NET library, which is actually called TwitchLib, and I used that and created a bot and did it on one stream. And that was sort of where it kicked off for me. And that was under Creative when that existed, before it became Science and Technology.
Oh, pretty cool. And when did you already, how can I say that? Did you always knew you want to go do, like in your life, did you already knew I want to go and do computer science or computer stuff, or you are planning to do, I don't know, accountable, and then you end up, or singer, and then you end up developer?
No, I've always been a developer. So my uncle, who was also a developer, still is a developer. He turned up for Christmas. He was visiting the family when I was around about 8 years old, and he turned up in his nice sports car, and I was like, "Oh, that's a nice car." What? And then he goes, "Yeah, I work for Oracle." So he worked for Oracle in a city in the UK called Leeds.
Okay.
And he worked there and did his development. I don't know exactly what he did. I still don't know exactly what he does when it comes to it. But he turned up in his nice sports car, and I was like, "Oh, excellent!" But in that same year was the year I got my ZX Spectrum, and they were very much little programming machines. I mean, it was beside the Commodore. So the Commodore you could do programming on, but the Spectrum was very much, hey, you load it up and here's the programming language. You can just go. But at the same time we got that Spectrum, I got a book with a load of little programs in there that you literally had to rewrite from the book. There was no copying, pasting. There was no nothing. Nope. It was just like, copy this across, and that's where I started. And there may have been like times where I went, "Oh, I want to be a policeman," or "I want to be a race car driver," or
an adventurer.
An adventurer. I want to do this. I want to do. But it always came back in the end to development.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's where I've been sort of forever.
Oh, good for you. Like for me, it was not clear, that part, but that's another story.
Yeah, we'll learn the story of Frank in his autobiography or biography, whichever one he writes.
10,000 detour. It's funny. Elliot Brand was saying that since it's episode 42, we need to have the ultimate answer in this stream.
The ultimate answer
to the
always
question of the life, the universe, everything, right?
Oh, I was just going to go with the answer to Azure. The answer to Azure is 42. There we go.
Yeah, but don't use it as a password, because that's the first guess for any geek.
Actually, how many Azure services are there? Because I have no idea.
I have no idea. I was about to say a bad word. A lot.
a ton of yeah.
Hey, so, Sea Shark. Hello.
Hey, Shark.
So yeah, there's more than 100. I don't know. There's more release than there are days in a year. there's always, every day there's something new.
Yeah.
When I started doing Azure, it was very simple. It was just web role and worker role. That's it. So I could cover full Azure, but not anymore. Not anymore.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, there were no VM. But now you're there, and you can do super fancy thing with VMs.
You can like run conferences and other things.
Would you picture us? What was the problem, and what did you try to solve? And then we'll jump into your demo.
Okay, so the main sort of starting point was,
and
we wanted.
Just, if you want to share your screen at some point because you have some diagram you would like to share, let me know. But right now I'm keeping just the two of us side by side. Sorry.
Yeah. As Frank was saying a little bit before, I am a stand-in, unfortunately. So the preparation time for this was so basically what we had was in April or March and April, the team that myself and Frank are on, the live coders, were putting on a conference, an online conference on Twitch, and we were hitting this big, like, so we were looking at, I think we ended up with 14 different speakers with talks up to 45 minutes each. The actual whole stream overall was 17 hours. We had graphics overlays. We had everything sort of there ready to go. The major problem was, how were we going to run this and from where? So, for example, we had sort of Frank on one side, we had speakers from all over the world, and we had to amalgamate all their streams and all their talks into one stream and then push that to Twitch. We tried doing things like running systems locally, like on my computer here, but the problem with that is you have internet service providers that don't allow things through firewalls, or they packet shape everything that comes into your system, and you just lose so much, and it lags, and there's so many variables that you just can't make a change for. For example, we had one of the live coders, Jitter Ted. He's in the Bay Area. When he connected to me, it was laggy. It was like frame by frame, it 1 frame a second. It was really, really bad. And yet Clancy, who lives in Alaska, had no issues whatsoever. He connected straight through. It was fine. There was no jitter. There was no frame by frame. He was like crisp, everything straight through. And we were.
Yeah,
everyone
and all
was just
those
like,
people
what?
have good connection also because they are live coders, so they are used to stream and stuff like, it's not like if it was the first time and the person doesn't have a good connection, or like doesn't know all the tricks to optimize inside their house and everything, the connection, like they know that those things, right?
Yeah. This was the thing. We were all, the actual first set of speakers for the Live Coders Conference were all broadcasters themselves. We were all live coders, and we were all just demoing what we were doing on Twitch, a lot of us. So there was a bit of ML, there was a bit of IoT, there was a bit of everything for everyone, including the trolley problem, which was a very interesting talk by somebody else called Sad Moody, and that was a very interesting talk by him. So to cut a long story short, we were trying to sort of decentralize that, so it can't be me producing the whole stream from my local machine. So the idea was, what we did is we created a VM up in Azure, and it was just a Windows VM that we installed OBS on, so Open Broadcast Software. It's all open source. We just installed it and go, in some little ways. But what we hadn't sort of accounted for was things like people's connections again. And so we had some satellite servers. These satellite servers were where the speaker would stream to, and then that satellite server would then stream it into our broadcast box. And then from that broadcast box, we would go to Twitch. So I'm going to take a step back a second as well, because I'm spewing out words and people are like, what are you saying? So when you broadcast from your PC to Twitch, you use a broadcast piece of software. The most common one and the free one that people use is OBS. As I said, it was open broadcast software. Now, when you connect to Twitch, you can connect directly to Twitch to broadcast your stream. That uses a protocol called RTMP, which is real-time messaging protocol. And that is literally a push, here's some data, go. And Twitch does a lot of fancy decoding, transcoding, and sort of pushes that out to us, the viewers, like you're watching this stream from Frank's PC. What we wanted to do though is we wanted to amalgamate everyone's stream into a single stream. So the main VM, the broadcast VM that we created, was an OBS system, and that pushed a stream out to Twitch. So what we did is we had all the speakers broadcast their stream to that server. So so we had an RTMP servers dotted around the planet, which then rebroadcast that into the central system. It sounds overly complicated. It's not. That's really. I will show you some.
So people were streaming from their PC and broadcast him to a RTM server, and that one was connected to Twitch.
Yes, pretty much.
I thought everybody was. I thought like the host or something like that was inside the VM running the OBS, and kind of what we do right now, inviting with whatever. Like right now, I'm using NDI through a Skype call, and I thought that's what you were doing.
No, it wasn't Skype and NDI. It's a sort of similar system. So from that standpoint, it was the host of the actual show on the day was Chef Brent and C# Fritz. I'm talking about the first conference here, and they were streaming their system to the same box.
So everybody was streaming. Okay.
Everyone was streaming to a personal RTMP server, and then we were using those. Then we were sort of amalgamating those into the single feed to go out to Twitch. Now, the person who was the producer was me. So for the first stream, for the first conference, there was only one producer. That was me for the whole thing, and yes, it was a long time. I was up for 20 hours, and I was sat there just going click, click. Oh, ready, click. So yes, like you yourself, Frank, right in front of you now have several scenes, and you can switch between those scenes. That's what we had. So we had each and every RTMP stream coming from each broadcaster on a separate scene, and I was just flicking between the two, and that's all. That's it. But then we brought in some automation for Live Coders Conference 2, and I'll talk about that later.
Oh, that's very interesting, and yeah, it must be exhausting to be, because you cannot daydreaming when you do that. Like I experienced that for like by slice of 5 hours during Ignite, where I was moderator in the chat and like trying to answer question and stuff like that for the main hero page. So a lot of traffic and question and stuff like that. I think in the keynote, that was one thing that was different this year. Even during Satya keynote, we had the chat open. So I think there was like something like 2,000 message or question during that first keynote. So question was just like, I was not alone. We were a full team to answer those questions. But you cannot daydream. Like, it's very draining in energy because you are always focused and ready to act, and like you need to take an action. Sorry, I'm clipping my fingers. Must be awful to anyone with headset. Sorry.
Clicking. No. Yeah, so this was the thing. It was like for 20 hours, we just had to. I just had to concentrate and sort of was switching those scenes. But then that was the RTMP setup caused the 15 between presenter and the host. Yes, rollers. What it was.
You want to just give a little bit more context for anyone who's not a streamer and like may not be aware of those 50 seconds?
Right. So what happens was during the first Live Coders conference, we had a gap between when somebody would stop talking. So the speaker at the time would say, "Right, I'm off. Thank you. Bye for now." I would switch it and then tell Chef Brent, the host, that he should start speaking. But because of the delay of him streaming to the RTMP server, which then was broadcast outwards, there was a delay involved in that stream getting to me to then getting into Twitch. So that's where the delay of 15 seconds sort of came in. And we did actually improve that on the second Live Coders conference. And I will talk about a little bit about what we used on that one. So lessons learned from Live Coders Conference 1 were the VM in Azure should be a GPU instance. You should not try and CPU encode your stream. Especially on something that is a VM, and technically the CPU is shared. You can have dedicated, but for the cost that we were running this on of virtually nothing, it was a case of
we needed right. You need because streaming required a lot of CPU and also GPU, but like it's both.
It depends which encode. So, okay, when you broadcast, you encode your video to be pushed into up to Twitch or whatever streaming platform you're using at the time. If you use CPU encoding, it uses the CPU to encode that video, which is high CPU usage. If you use hardware encoding or GPU encoding, it uses the GPU to encode that stream. Now, what happens then is your CPU usage does drop dramatically if you're using GPU encoding. So, for example, if you're just using CPU, you can use the 100% of CPU all the time just because that's what it's doing. That's its job, is to encode that stream. When you switch that to GPU, the CPU side of things drops to about 10%. And that's one of the issues we actually had, was it was at 70 to 80, 90% the whole time. And when you were trying to flick between scenes, there was a bit of lag on that. And that's where overlays weren't quite working because they were lagging out because of the CPU usage. And that's where we had a few problems. So this is where we went with the GPU instance.
Okay. I thought maybe because it's different when we're like on my machine, where what I understood was I needed a machine that is really CPU heavy to have a good stream. But maybe because I'm not a server and I'm like just a broadcaster.
Little bit. I mean, what graphics card do you have, and what CPU do you have?
I don't know.
Well, there you go then.
I have a good machine. It's a good machine. Like...
So it's the same with any machine, and this is why people say, "Oh, you've got to go for a big CPU," because hardware encoding is good and does take away that CPU load. However, hardware encoding is the actual it's optimized. That's the word. It's optimized for higher bit rates. So when you stream, you're looking at a bit rate of around about 2,500 to 3,000 kilobits a second. Hardware encoders are optimized for between 25,000 and 150,000 kilobits a second. So but they've got better in recent years, and that's why GPU encoding is taking that forefront on how good it is at encoding stuff.
And now I'm just trying to see if I found, because like I know approximately what I had, but I don't want to say bad things on stream and then it will be recorded. So my CPU is a AMD Ryzen 7, and then it's 2700X 8-core processor. So it's not, it's good, right? I have 30.
It's a good CPU, yeah.
It's 32 gigs of RAM, so like that I know I have plenty of stuff. And I'm just looking for my graphics card. I know it's a good one too, but I don't find
he's gonna find it. He will find it.
And NVIDIA. Okay, let's go open this. Because I when I upgrade this PC, I didn't want to play. I did that for many years where I was building my PC, but for that one I was no. I will go to the store, say, hey, this is what I want to do. What's your suggestion? Kind of thing.
So CPU and GPU encoding is valid, but with server grade stuff, it's typically lower clock speeds as well.
Yeah. Oh, I have a GeForce GTX 1660 Ti.
That's good enough. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so I think right now I'm using more my CPU to encode though.
Yeah.
But maybe I should, since my stream are more like it's not heavy on graphic animation and stuff. When I need to compile, I could, like, if you're telling me like I should experiment though. Maybe I will do that this week or next week. Try to switch to GPU, so when I compile, when my stream is requesting me more CPU, still have a lot of bandwidth free for the stream.
Definitely give it a go. You will see it, because I've been streaming on GPU encoding for the 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
I've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your stuff is good. I saw your stream on your personal channel. That's cool.
So,
do you want to show us a little bit how we could build something similar, or get inspired to build something similar?
Yes. First thing first, I will talk about the RTMP servers. So we've talked about the GPU server, and we'll sort of take a little bit of a dive on where to create that and how to create those. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the RTMP side of things, because that was one thing that we failed on in the first instance, because we tried to set that up ourselves and we had a giant lag of like 15 seconds. So what we did do is we used, it's in the Azure Marketplace, is a thing called Wowzer. Wowzer was one of the options. Sorry. The one we did use was Ant Media Server. Ant Media Server is, Major Gamer Geek, newer NVIDIA, better NBank. There we go. I think that's about right. So we used Ant Media Server, and Ant Media Server is a paid-for service. And what they do is they have a community or an enterprise version, and their enterprise version has a RTMP lag of around about 1 second. So what they've done is they've built the software so it works much, much better than anything that we could configure ourselves. Like, for example, you, me, just anyone who wants to put on a conference, I do actually recommend that they go and check out Ant Media Server, because the actual cost of it is nothing compared to the setup time, and you get that extra sort of no lag. You get that almost zero latency. It's like I had a stream from Chef Brent on LCC2, Live Coders Conference 2, and it was like I was receiving that broadcast less than a second on the broadcast server.
That's impressive. Do you have a link for us? So I could. You won't be able to paste the URL in the chat of the Twitch, but if you send it to me, I can share it to the chat.
What I'll do is I'll do one better. I'll show you where to find it.
Oh.
So I'm going to share my screen, if that's all right, friend. Apparently, I'm still. Am I still sharing it? I am still sharing it. There we go. I forgot to stop sharing in the pre-show. So what we have is we have our Azure portal right here, and if I type in Ant Media, and there we have it. Ant Media Server,
Ant
Enterprise
Media.
Edition. Oh, what did you think? Sorry.
NVIDIA.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Ant Media.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, that's cool. I didn't know. I really don't know what it is. The only Ant stuff that I know that is computer sciences related is a build agent, I think, called Ant. Like MS Build.
Yeah, yeah. Is that ENT?
No, I think it's ANT. Like an ant,
Okay.
right? The little.
Yeah. Okay.
I could be wrong though. Okay, sorry. Continue.
So yes, this is Ant, as in the little creatures, the little insects, and it's a media server. And what they do is you can do all sorts of. So you can actually push your RTMP stream to an Ant Media server, and then it will push that out to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, for example. And that's their built-in thing. That's what they've built into this. So it's all there, ready for you to go, all set up for you, ready to go, and it's just perfect for the use case that we had. And the setup time that it would take me to build my own RTMP server with all the right SDKs and APIs, this was perfect. The one reason I chose Ant Media Server over Wowzer, because Wowzer is another option, and that's WOWZA. This option, the Ant has their own API as well, so you can add stream keys. You can make sure that people are streaming to the correct endpoint, and you can actually check if an endpoint is live or not. So, for example, if I gave you a stream key as a speaker, and you said I was pushing my talk to that server, I can say, okay, that one's live. I'll switch the scene to that automatically, and it's got webhooks as well, which is there's that little extra thing that you need or wanted, and this has it. So that was the main one. So that's what I wanted to talk about on the RTMP side of things.
Okay.
So when it comes to the Windows Server side of things, for the OBS server, it's Windows Server 2016. You can use 2019. It was just that's the option that comes up for me. Now, what happens is where we go down to the size, we specifically want to go for an NVIDIA NV6. Now, you may look at the price of that
And freak out.
and go, oh, £640 a month. So you're looking at X number of dollars a month. I think the dollar mark is around about $750 a month. You are only using this while you're streaming, so for the conference. So the total cost of Live Coders Conference 2, that included 3 Ant Media servers and 1 broadcast VM, was under $120.
It's pretty cool considering the costs of a conference. Like it's nothing.
Yes, it had some more cost in terms of person time and people time, but I'm talking that money cost of this is what, and this includes the enterprise version of Ant Media Server, which is on a per server basis and is something like 30 cents an hour or 35 cents an hour on a pay as you go basis. And again, they're only up and running when you've got the conference going. So yeah, it was under $120 for the whole thing.
Pretty cool.
And that was a 10-hour stream. So you're looking at $12 an hour, which is pretty good for
Indeed.
running that. And what I'll do is I'll go into the size of these and just go to NV. There's a few options. What you have is the NV6, NV12, and NV24. Now, the NV6 is a single GPU. The NV12 is dual GPU, and I think the NV24 is 4 GPU.
Wow.
And there's also a 32, which I'm not quite sure. But at £2,000 a month, I wasn't going to look at that point.
Yeah. But that's when you're leaving it open all the 24/7. But still, of course, even if you're just doing an hour or 2 hours or something like that, it will be more costly. Bigger is the VM. It makes sense, totally.
Of course, yeah.
But compared to buying a real server with all that power and then not using it for the rest of the year and still paying for it.
Oh yeah. By the way, don't pick anything above an NV6. The reason being, you do not need more than 1 GPU at all in this whole thing. So.
Oh really? I was pretty sure you were going for the NV12.
Nope, we were on a 6. Now it's got plenty of, it's 6 virtual CPUs, plenty of memory, and the hard disks. You don't really need to worry about the hard disk space. That is, all it's doing is pushing these speakers streams straight through and out the other side onto Twitch. So yeah. Base NV6 and you're good to go, and that's no issues whatsoever. Now the big thing that I found is, where do you get the drivers from for the GPUs? Now Frank has got the link for this and will supply it to whoever needs it and pass it around. But what we've got is the install NVIDIA GPU drivers on N series VMs. Scroll down to the NVIDIA grid drivers, and then you've got the version 11 ones for 2019, 2016, or Windows 10 builds, and those are the ones you need.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it seems like a large install and everything like that, but it's very much needed. You don't even have to adjust settings once you've installed them. It's just a case of, so the system recognizes it's there. Oh, excuse me, I'm just going to grab a drink. So that is basically it in terms of VM. I haven't got a VM set up at the moment, but that is the basis of that. But the next thing I'm going to talk about is the infrastructure. So I was talking before about the fact that we had satellite RTMP servers, and those satellite RTMP servers were in US East, US West. A European one, I think, had it in UK South, and we had one over on the other side of the world, either Australia or New Zealand. I cannot remember where at that point. It was just over there. And what we had issues with in the first one was, well, luckily I solved this before we went live with Live Code Conference 1, because otherwise the cost would have been slightly more. Is with Azure, you pay for egress. So you pay for any data that goes out of Azure. So what we would have had, if I was connecting the stream, the RTMP server in Australia, Europe, and US West to the broadcast server, which was actually based in US East, I would have had to, if I was just directly connecting via IP address, like it would have been the external IP address, and it wouldn't have gone internal. It would have gone out of Azure in Australia and into Azure in US East.
Yeah, because you are changing regions. That's how they call it, right?
Yeah.
They have 5 regions, I think, in Azure. So when you're passing, because you could transfer from one data center to the other without like that outgress fee, if they are both, like there's transaction and like, you know, but like what the fee you're talking about, it's when you're passing from a region to from another one. Yeah.
Or a region from another one, or just out of Azure.
Yeah, like if you go out. Yes.
Yeah. So the major thing we had to think about there was, how do we do this? And then I discovered something that was included in Azure, and hopefully we've got it here. This is interesting. That one's missing. There were 2 networks here. So back over here, what I've got is 2 virtual networks, or I should have 2. There you go. It just needed a bit of a refresh. We have US East VNet and US West VNet. Now, US East is under 10.1.0.0 and US West is under 10.2.0.0. So, but these 2 networks can't communicate with each other at the moment. There's no communication between the 2 of them. And the one thing I found was peering. And it's peerings down here on this list. And when you go into that, it says, oh, there isn't anything. So let's go through and add one in. Okay. So what we have is name of peering from US East VNet to remote network. What we're going to do is we're going to select the remote network first down here. And the remote network is going to be US West VNet. So
we're going. One sec, I will switch. So both of us are now in the top right corner. Otherwise, I was hiding information on the form.
Oops! It's for some odd reason it's come up with my name in that autocomplete form. But what we'll do is we'll do east to west and west to east. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So basically we've got east to US West, we've selected the US West VNet, and we've got west to east, which is the opposite gateway.
Yep.
And we say allow virtual network access from one side and other side. We don't need to enable the forwarded traffic, and go. And as you can see on the right hand side here, well, no, you
not
can't
anymore because we're
as you can see here, is we're adding the two network pairings. I call it pairing, but it's peering.
How do you call it?
I think it is peering.
Should do a Twitch voting, a poll.
Yeah, it's peer to peer. So we'll call it peering. So now we've got east to west is connected to US West, and if we go back, that was on the US West East VNet.
Okay.
So if we go into the US West VNet, we've got west to east is also connected. So now what we can do is if we have a VM in US East or a VM in US West, you can use the internal IP addresses to connect to those servers.
Okay.
And you don't pay for data transfer.
Even if you're changing regions?
Apparently so.
I'm definitely not an expert in networking. That's like, I always need to read 3 and 4 times the documentation, make sure of it, or just ask for help. One of my colleagues that is more equipped for infrastructure. I forgot. Like at the end of my project or task, I know, I understand now. And then like I don't touch it for 6 months, and like, after 6 months, like a million years after, it's like, how was working again? Okay, I thought when you're changing region, there's definitely a fee there, but maybe it's much smaller because now you stay in Azure, so it doesn't go out like you said before. You are really going out and in again.
Unless I missed it on the bill.
No, you would know by now.
Yeah. I didn't see anything at the time, so it may have been a fluke that we got it for free.
No, don't think so.
I will find out as well in that case, because I do not know. Should we have a little bit of a research on this one? Because that was interesting. Network peering price.
That's what I'm also doing on my side.
Okay, so so I've got the diagram, troubleshoot, constraints, pricing. There's a nominal price, it says.
Yeah, that's the thing. So they will charge you ingress and egress traffic are charged, but they will be smaller.
Oh, it's okay. So it's an eighth of a penny.
Yeah.
Or an eighth of a cent per gigabyte. So it's not a lot.
No. That's the thing. So you're winning. So it's probably much faster because you stay in Azure, and then it will you get charged by a fraction of the price if it was going out completely. Not going out is not like that expensive, but when you're talking about like a constant stream, like there's a lot of data, right? If you are streaming for 17 hours or something like that. No, not 17. How much? Yeah, was it 17 hours?
The first one was 17 hours, and
the prep before and okay.
So, but I mean, okay, so there is a smaller cost on that network peering, but it is a lot smaller than it would be going out.
Yeah. So you're winning.
And so you're definitely winning, and by winning, it was in terms of gigabytes, you're looking at hundreds over that 17 hours. Especially when it came to the number of people's streams that were coming into the box and being transferred between those regions into that central region, it's a lot of traffic. And to not notice it on the bill, I think that sort of signifies that was a little bit of a win on that one. Sorry for the misinformation on that one. Sorry, Frank.
No, it was just like I said. I'm not the best one, but I tend to memorize like where it will cost a lot for my client. So I remember that going out, try to avoid that, or try to walk around, or try to whatever. So, but I was just surprised that even between. But yeah, so inbound, outbound. Yeah, so without your peering, the five first gig are free for a month. But then after that, before in my I don't know if I'm Canadian dollar or US dollar. Before it was 1 cent, and now it's, if I round it, it's 9 cent for a 5 to 10 gig. So like it's much like it's not that crazy, right? But you know, when you pile them, then yeah.
It becomes a thing, doesn't it?
Yeah. But like that's why compared to 1 cent before. So we're talking about the ratio 1 to 9 or 1 to 8, and like you know, then like with it worked by like steps. So like you have up to 5, then 5 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, and like you know later, and it's going lower and lower and lower. But still, like at the best price, it's 5 cents compared to 1 cent.
Yeah, exactly. So definitly a good thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good move. Yeah, we'll remember that now. Like, yeah, it could cost you, but there's a workaround ish. And I'm sure question of performance also, I'm sure it helps.
It definitely helps with the performance.
Because you're staying in Azure.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I'm afraid, is all I've got to demo today. But if anyone's got any questions, please do ask in chat, because I'm more than happy to help.
What kind of so did you create everything manually? I'm assuming yes, because it was for one time.
Yes, it's something that I would like to go back to in the future, and maybe make this something that you can do through the marketplace, or at least have your own scripts to do so. So you can go, okay, I want to set up a broadcast VM and X satellite RTMP servers, and it goes and does that for you, with all the peering in place and everything like that. So I think that's something that I want to go back to and do. I am unfortunately not that au fait with automation in Azure. It's something that I've never got down to sort of digging into, and it's something that I do want to do.
Yeah, because I'm assuming with an ARM template and a script, you could probably do most of everything.
Yeah.
I think. Like, you know, installing things and stuff like that shouldn't be that of a problem. Or like, I say ARM template, but it could be what's the other one? Terraforms.
Yeah.
I am more comfortable in ARM.
I don't think there's like nothing you can't do with a script.
Yeah, no. And Azure is very open on that side anyway, so yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. And yeah,
sorry.
Sorry.
What I was going to do is I was going to go back a little bit further and sort of say, but in the previous part of the stream, I said we had well, hang on, what have you done? There you go. Sorry, wrong screen. I was like, what's he doing? What button? at the start of the stream, we said, okay, we've got the VMs, which I've talked about, the RTMP v1 and the GPU instance. And the GPU instance being the one where you're going to be having everything all built into one. And I said all around automation. So it's not about automation this isn't about automation of actually creating the network and infrastructure yourself. What I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the automation that we built in terms of the broadcast and the production side of things. So what I did is we used a thing called OBS WebSockets, which is an add-on to OBS, where you can communicate with it via a WebSocket API. And we had an extra app service that we used, and it was a small app on top of that app service, which changed scenes and did sort of a scheduling overlay. So we could actually switch between we could switch the titles on Twitch. So the stream title changed to the current talk, and also the commands in chat changed to who was now and next, which was pretty interesting. That was developed for the second conference, but it was very much linked into that whole Azure build it all as one unit. Here you go, type of thing, and we're sort of expanding on that, or I've been expanding on that and trying to make it like an open source bit of software.
Interesting. I was going to ask you a little bit more detail on that side, like as a producer, where you like remote desktop into that VM, or was it running just from your, I don't know, Stream Deck or command from your machine and then just sending commands? Like how as a producer, how it was? Because I know one of my colleagues did try to play that for us, because this show we are 2 hosts, because we are 2 in the team. With at that time when we start 30 episodes ago, only 2 of us had like a good connection laptop and something like that. So that's why, and we were looking for hosting a VM, and we did quickly experiment, and he was saying that he was getting disconnected from the VM. But maybe he didn't pick the good VM also. He was doing a bunch of experiment on his spare time.
Yes, is the answer. With the VM and the production, it still, at the moment, is very much you're logged in, and you've got to monitor the audio and make sure everything's up and running. In the future, I hope to sort of transfer that out, so you don't have to be logged in, and you can just be logged into the website and probably have a remote monitoring system. But that's a little bit sort of harder to configure, and if things go wrong, you then need to log in.
And you never get disconnected?
No, I never got disconnected.
Okay. I don't know. Apparently, it was always getting kicked out of his own VM. And at some point, he couldn't even... Like, the stream was continuing, meaning the VM was still up. I don't know if... Jason, if you're... I know Jason may have more details if he's on the chat, but...
Could this be the Azure security thing to do with remote desktop and session times?
Like if you're live, if you're in...
No, I think there is a session timeout thing within the security management section of Azure.
And it didn't change it? Depending on...
And I think it depends on your current settings and who has those settings. But yeah, I believe there is...
Depending on which subscription you use. I know we have like we share all the Cloud Advocate, like a subscription where we do our demo, and that one has a little bit more bandwidth, because, you know, if you want to do a learning machine, you need a lot of juice, so we're less restricted, and like we have more opportunity in that one, but the restriction and the rules are much stronger and tight. So maybe that was a thing, or maybe it's just something he didn't know or forgot or whatever. Because I did use VMs and I was not kicked out of my VM, but then I was not streaming traffic, so maybe at some point it got flagged. I don't know. Because of course, Azure is checking the VMs to make sure you're not Bitcoin mining and stuff like that.
Oh, do they?
I need to shut down my stuff. Yeah.
Oh no! Quick, shut it all down. Yeah, that'd be fun. So those GPU instances, I only use them once, and it is for conferences. But
No, I think they're like, I think it's legit. I think anyway, like if you're Bitcoin mining, it will be like 24/7 all the time forever. Like not like for even 17 hours. Though you didn't use that VM for that conference, so that only for the second one. Like yeah, you may raise the flag, but like then they check. It's all like like he's streaming out like it's a server. The machine is pretty good at detecting what it is, right? They don't want to. They are respecting the client privacy, but at some point they also need to double check security because some resources are shared. So
yes, exactly.
At some point they need to. It's pretty cool. Thank you a lot for sharing all that information.
You're welcome. You're
really
welcome.
Like it.
I mean, the one aim for this whole system is we are fairly open about what we've done, and we are open about the software we've used. Ant Media Server, the community edition, is actually open source, so that's on GitHub. OBS is, of course, another open source piece of software, and so is OBS WebSockets. So we're not sort of restricting it. We've just put a bunch of open source software together and used it, and maybe added our little own sparkle on top of that. But it's one of those things that anyone could do this, and anyone can use the same system. So go ahead. Is the answer?
Not sure. I like VMs for me is like they are very, very useful. So I'm sure like now I will get in trouble for saying that, but it's not my cup of tea. That's okay if I say that, right? I don't need to like VMs. I know they are useful. When I was before joining Microsoft, I was working for a Microsoft partner, so I was helping different clients to get in Azure, using Azure. Sometimes Azure was not the solution. I was working on-prem with them, but I was the Azure specialist. So of course, when I was involved in a project, most of the time it required Azure. If I could, I always tend to go not in a VM because my understanding of like why would you like to go using the cloud is to be able to scale up and scale down and follow the curve of the demand, and the smaller your pieces are, the closer you get to that line, because otherwise if your blocks are big, then you're over provisioning or under provisioning, and you don't want to under provisioning because then it's your user that will have a bad experience.
Yeah.
And if you over, then like it's your pocket that has a bad experience.
No,
so, like,
and in terms of things like web dev, I completely agree. And
sometimes you need VMs.
This is what a VM. In this instance, these VMs are fantastic.
That's exactly
really easy to use.
Yeah.
When we look at people sort of doing a cloud transformation project, I've seen a lot of people like transfer massive systems straight into Azure, and then over a year cut it down and sort of rewrite whatever they're doing and make it more cloudified. No, it's more scalable. They change their systems and take away from those VMs and remove those VMs and then put those into whatever they need to make it cheaper, but also make it scalable and geo redundant as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like when you start on Azure, maybe for plenty of reasons. Could be your server is dying, you have no more space, you need to make space because the new project you really want it on premise for XYZ reason or whatever, right? So a lot of the first step is the lift and shift, we call it, so you don't touch it too much.
Yes.
You just like bring it in Azure, and that's totally fine. Like if something like maybe you don't have the binary or whatever, like X reason, but then like if you want to really use the power of the cloud, you should, I used to say cloudify it. You need to rethink your architecture and make it really leveraging the power of the cloud. But for that first, there's even some tool like Azure migration. There's a place there, I just sharing it in the chat. It helps you to make some assessments and see what you need to do. There's the same thing also if it's an app, a web app, and you want to just go app. But since we're talking VM here, so Azure Migrate will help you take your VM, bring it in Azure, and then from there, like you're having a peace of mind. You can buy time kind of thing to maybe rethink your process, maybe use container, PaaS, whatever you want, or stay like that because maybe you say, you know what, like it's not worth it. We only have like 2 years of that service, and after that we're canning it, whatever. There's no need always. And some people just preferred staying also in VMs because that's the task force they have. Like if you're all infrastructure people going full dev, that will be hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a process, and I think VMs will always have their place. Even if people like myself or you, it's not the speciality and not our cup of tea, but they're there and they're here to stay for a while, at least. And why not? Because they enable us to do things like this.
Well, like that's definitely a good usage of Azure. The VMs are useful. That's for sure. That's it. Just I feel always like it's hard, but there's a good place to learn. I would like to share with you. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Microsoft Learn and Microsoft Learn modules?
I am about to get into them, I think, because I have yet to do any certification in Azure. So I'm looking to sort of learn and sort of hopefully expand my knowledge in Azure to the point where I can, I'm good at messing around with Azure. So it's like,
well, then you should definitely have a look at Azure Fundamentals, the AZ900.
Mm-hmm.
It covers a little bit of everything, so it is accessible in terms of you still need to study and prepare. Like it is a certification, but it's a one that is very accessible in terms of it's not going very deep, super deep, like going for an exception in VMs or like containers or stuff like that. But it's covering a lot of stuff. So we'll cover the SLA. It's something maybe we don't think about it because we're focusing on the technical stuff. But if you're in business, it's worth knowing the SLA, and if you're buying a VMs and you want to produce something, how could you do your stuff and how to calculate the cost. So there's the cost analysis, of course the VM. So all the three kind of clouds, so the PaaS, the IaaS, and the SaaS, software as a service everywhere. There's the databases, there's the security, everything is a little bit covered. So really interesting, AZ900. And if you have a look at the Ignite, you still have time because I think it was up to the 15. If you complete one of the challenge, are you aware of that?
Oh no, I'll have a look at that.
There's a free voucher. Let me grab again.
Ooh. Yes. So as I was saying, it's I've yet to do any of the certifications, and I think I know enough about Azure and other cloud service providers to be dangerous. And this is where people they come to me and go, what do you do, or what do you use? I'm like, I use a bit of everything because I like Azure Functions, and I like the other one, and I like.
You know you can mention them.
Oh, I can.
I know we are a Microsoft channel, but like they exist. Like it's totally fine. You can mention them. There's no
Yeah.
problem.
So, like AWS Lambda, and then you've got Cosmos versus which was there, the document DB, I think, over there, on AWS. So it's
Mongo?
like,
Oh no,
um,
on AWS.
yeah, I think they've got document DB and they've got Dynamo DB as
Yeah,
well.
their
So they've got a few
Dynamo. I reviewed a
versions.
book long time ago about Dynamo. It's a good one.
Yes. So I mean, I know enough to be dangerous in multiple places, but there's no official certification on any of my CVs. So it's one of those things that I need to get sort of.
So I found the link.
Oh, excellent.
So it's the Microsoft Ignite Cloud Scale Challenge. And there's a few challenges there. You got until October 15 to do one, to do like all of them if you want. You could win a bunch of stuff, but guaranteed if you do at least one, you will have a voucher for Azure for our certification. A Microsoft,
Ooh.
not Azure, for a Microsoft certification. So that's cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much, because I will check that out.
And yeah, and like I said, if you're doing a little bit of everything, like you could go already specialize on something, but I would suggest you do the Azure fundamentals. I did it mostly initially just to validate the documentation, the learn module there. So that's the thing I want to show you. So
oh yes.
You know what? Let's switch. Or you know what? No, let's do it. So I will see. I shared just before the introduction to Azure Virtual Machine in the chat.
Yep, I've got it up on my screen. It's
So I will share your screen. Oh yeah, in black.
I'm very much a dark moder because I sit in front of my TV constantly. So
it's totally fine. I'm just. A lot of time when we are presenting at different, like now it's not true anymore because I do most of the stuff like remote, but when I was presenting at events and stuff like that, for a lot of projector and screen, it was better if it was white because you pushing more lights, so it just helps for visibility. So I'm used to go when I'm presenting in light mode and everything, but I agree with you that I like dark mode.
Yeah, so here it is. I had to look through the checklist down here earlier on and sort of what it
is. That's one module. Okay, so and I picked that one. I had that one prepared today because, like I mentioned many times, like I'm definitely not an expert in Azure Virtual Machine. I know them. I use them a lot. Like 5 years ago maybe, but not recently, not too much. So I think I will do that this module. It's an hour, so maybe later today or this week. And the thing I like about that is it tells you about what time it will take. Then like you have like by little pieces, kind of all the path. It guides you, and there's also learning path that you could go and do, and those learning paths will be aligned to certification. So that's pretty cool. So if you are an administrator of a network and stuff like that, you could, and maybe I think it's I see one here, for Azure administrator, the AZ104.
Yes.
So like that's a certification, and like it will help you and have a learning path, and it's all the information you need to know to pass the exam. I don't think if you never touch anything Azure, you do this and you score at the exam. But like I think you need a little bit of practice. At least I'm like that. I need to walk the talk a little bit more. But maybe for some people, like I know everything isn't there. So like, but it's always good. So that's the one I picked for today. Like in there, what I like is they will make you. They explain like you have a context. Like you are working in a. It's not documentation. It's really a learning
Oh,
thing.
so they give you a they give you a scenario and
Yes,
everything like that.
so
Do
you
they?
are
Oh,
working in a
excellent.
firm, and then you need to migrate some stuff in Azure, so they will make you create a VM, and then you should do your choices. They will spawn sandbox subscription, so you could create your VM in it. I will be there for 1 hour, I think, and then they explain your choices and stuff like that. So you have a lot of stuff, and then of course backup. Please do back up your VMs like anything else. They talk about that. And then at the last one, the one before the last is knowledge check, because you have a little summary, like kind of a little form, just to validate that you understood what you just read or did. You could complete, it's not an exam, you could totally do next, and click. They will show, oh, this is not a good answer, and then they explain, because sometimes it could be very honest, right? Okay, there's always one easy to remove. So and then maybe in between the two you're really honestly not sure, so that's a good thing. It means you need to dig more into that because there's something you didn't catch, but they will explain why let's say B was the good answer. So that's what I also really like about that. And it's kind of gamified, because at the top right corner, if you scroll it back to the top of the page, now you're probably not signed in, but when you are, well, see, you're level 1 with 0 XP. So
Oh no!
But it's
exposed.
It's good that you didn't lie, because you said no, I don't have done anything, and so, if in case you're just bluffing, say I did tons of them. Really?
Level 36. By the way, how many levels are there?
I don't know. I should ask. There's one of my colleague. He did all the Learn module.
No. Oh.
All of them. Well, there was a competition at some point where, part of our task is to create those learning paths as a cloud advocate at Microsoft, and he likes to write them. So he thought, if I'm reading a lot of them, then it will helps me to understand the pattern, what makes a good one or not a good one and stuff like that. And as he was doing that, it was you know what, let's push it. And he got competition with someone else, and hey, I did read more than you, and then they read, so he read them all. So I should ask him, but for me, I did Azure Fundamentals in a few modules. I'm level 6, so it's not crazy high, but I definitely intend to do more. So I think my goal for now is I want to do, let's say, one every week, or I don't know, some are super short, a module could be 15 minutes or half an hour, so can totally do that once a week. That shouldn't be a problem.
Looking at the search page, there's 1,923. So there's quite a few.
So if you look for Azure Fundamentals, that's a good one to get started if you are interested. I don't want to push you in that direction, but I definitely think it's a good one to get started. Like I said,
can I spell fundamentals? Yes, I can.
So that's a learning path. So as you can see, this one is 9 hours. Because it will contain multiple modules. I did that. There's 12 module. Maybe that was the old version. I know it was just recently refreshed. I'm not sure if it's still 12 modules. But I did that on my French stream. Because it's also available in multiple different languages. That's pretty cool. And you can even pass the exam. Before it was 5 language, and now it's also available in more. I don't know how much more, but I know French is now one of those. Before it wasn't there, so people are reaching out to me saying, hey, I cannot now study in French and pass the exam in French, because there's a discrepancy. Like there's a difference sometimes in the how things are named. So it was hard for like when you're studying in a different language and you try to match, what's
what you've just studied.
So yeah. So like as I was teaching that learning path in French, I was mixing the English terminology but explaining in French so people could understand and memorize for the exam.
Yeah.
But
Excellent.
It's pretty cool. It's a good one.
Yeah. So I do like the look of this Azure Virtual Machines.
So you could bookmark it if you want.
Just
a little bookmark. And let's tweet to each other when it's done. I challenge you.
I'll just click on the knowledge check and see if I know anything straight away.
Don't cheat though. Don't cheat. It's an hour. Like you should before
spend
bedtime. It's like
definitely. Well, thank you very much, Frank. It was.
Oh my god. Well, thanks for looking at it. That's cool.
Yes.
And with that, we are mostly at the end of our stream. So, Mr., where can people find you on the internet?
Well, here is my Twitter handle.
Yeah, don't do the same mistake as me.
I am the Slevin, or
on Twitter.
On Twitter, or you can find me as Lucky Number Slevin. Now there we not quite Rollers, not quite. Rollers nearly got it right in chat. He missed a K and he replaced an E with an N, an E with an I with an E.
You can type it.
Well,
type your.
I will type it if I lean over to. Hang on, give me a second. I am on the wrong PC.
Oh.
What I've got is I've got the chat on a different screen, on a different PC altogether.
I was like, just say hello and it will write your name.
Microsoft developer. There you go. I'm just coming into chat. I'll be there in a second. And I have got that on. So that is my Twitch username. Hello, everyone. So yeah.
So earlier today, I was happy to have Andy on my stream, and I tweeted that I was going on a stream with Lucky No 7 or Lucky No, yeah, or 7 Kevin. I don't know.
Slevin.
On Twitter, but on Twitter is D7Slevin. So
unfortunately, wrong person, and yeah, I've been trying to get that Twitter account for years.
So yeah, but otherwise, how many like you're streaming often also on Twitch, right? You're, like you mentioned earlier, you're part of the Live Coders, a very nice community.
I usually stream Wednesday, Thursday, and Sundays, and that's between 9 and midnight BST or UTC, depending on time of year. Currently BST, and yeah, that's my typical stream. It's been a bit less recently due to just work commitments and
life.
Life.
Yeah.
So I'm building back up on that one again, and we're doing some exciting stuff with sim racing. So if you're into your driving simulators, we're doing some stuff with telemetry at the moment, which is all numbers and graphs and data, and I'm hoping to actually plug something into Azure to try and visualize that at some point.
One day life come back a little bit more to the normal and you have the chance to go visit the Microsoft office in Detroit. They are heavy on car and stuff like that as a client base over there. Mm-hmm. There's a simulator where you sit in a device that move and they monitor all your action and display them in a fancy Power BI chart, like real time and stuff like that. So you play a video game, or racing game. I say video game, like a racing simulation something, and they record tons of matrix, and they have tons of feature that are this kind of focus. They have a basketball with like sensor in it, so you know when you throw it or like play, they record statistic and stuff like that. But the car simulator over there will make you very envy, I think.
Hang on, I have got something here. That is my steering wheel.
Oh, that's a good one.
So
yeah,
it's yeah, yeah.
Serious. Look serious.
It's a little bit. It's a serious piece of kit.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm more
a lot of fun.
arcade type. And when it turns to cars in a game, I'm more like, can I just pick the color and
pick the color and go.
Well, like not just the color, but what's the game that the focus was just making crash and cars, something Paradise.
Burnout, I think, or Need for Speed.
No. A Burnout Paradise, yeah, Burnout.
Yeah.
So like we have like different type of cars. Like they were a little bit different in term of. So Burnout is my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's how I like picking cars and stuff like that. That's good. I like that.
Excellent. Yeah.
So you do
that's
sim simulation, but not just playing. So you mentioned algorithms. So you do like the code part of it, or?
No. What? A lot of the simulation racing games pump out data on like suspension travel, where you are in the world, and sort of G-forces in all the directions, and wheel temperatures, and all sort of wheel pressures and tire pressures, and which I think a few of them even give out telemetry data on how much each wheel is spinning, and not actually being connected to the tarmac. So that's sort of all this data that is pumped out from these games. You can just grab and push out somewhere else. So that's what I'm trying to do, is maybe create Twitch extensions that show this data. So that's the next step. So, but that's a hobby project when I'm not actually doing work.
Really cool. So have a look. I just put his if it was not obvious enough with his name, now you have the full Twitch website. Thank you a lot, Andy, for spending this time with us today, and thank you for all of you in the chat being with us, reacting, asking questions. It's always very appreciated. And come back tomorrow, same time, for another episode of All Around Azure. Bye, everybody.